side, river to river, Jesus.
I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. Welcome, everybody, to the Trust in the Lord Hour, and perhaps just praise Him hour as well. And we haven't made the decision to actually either combo the name or certainly not to change the name. But Trust in the Lord has been our anthem for the past 19 years and has gotten us through some very difficult times. Just praise Him may be the phrase that will get us through even more difficult times, and just trust Him or trust in the Lord, however. I might want to go ahead and tell you to look behind me. That's the camera that's pointed north on from our building, pointing north on Lenox Avenue. As you can see, the snow is still falling. The sky is completely snow gray behind me. You can see the snow that's on the sidewalks. The snow plows have been, and everybody's heard about the big blizzard that has hit New York from Washington to Boston. As much as 24 to 2 feet of snow in some parts of Long Island, New York. We only got 15 inches so far, and the snow is expected to continue to fall here in the Big Apple for another 2 hours, so we might get another inch or two, up to 16 or 17 inches. But as you can see, that's the big snow, and the snow is still falling. You can see drops of it, and the camera is not all that magnified to see it as it drops, and it's not that heavy a snowfall as it was earlier this morning, late last night, but it's still falling. And of course, it's the blizzard of the year 2026. They haven't had this kind of a snowstorm in quite a number of years, over a generation, I think, since there's been this much snow and as fast as the snow has fallen. And New York City has been shut down. We've called for a travel ban last night. All cars and pedestrians off of the streets and highways as early as 9 o'clock last night. The same thing with our neighboring state, New Jersey. And so there's been very little activity. Restaurants and bars and everybody else that normally have their evening hours of whatever it is, festivities that they do, was canceled last night. And so here we are today, digging out. I'm not sure that I'm delighted to be able to broadcast live. Our engineer was able to come in today. Praise God for that. Thank God. So we're able to broadcast today because we have a lot of things that we need to say as we go forward. One is that, of course, is that I want everyone to know in the Trust in the Lord Hour, and I do the Manning Report, which is a news and information hour, but I consider it a spiritual hour as well. And as I made mention on Saturday, I preach 10 hours per day, or at least I'm live at least 10 hours, 10 and a half hours per day. Not per week, let me put it that way. I do 2 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then the Wednesday night I do an hour, that's 9 hours. And then on Saturday I do an hour to an hour and a half. That's 10 to 10 and a half to 11 hours each week. I'm thankful to Almighty God for being able to do that. Now, here, I want to, we're in one of the things I did not say in the Sabbath worship this past Saturday is that preaching about the tribulation is not an inviting message. It has many, if you will, drawbacks. Let me use that term. I'm looking for something better to use. Inasmuch as that you're preaching to a group of people who, for the most part, are not a part of the elect. And because they're not a part of the elect, they're not a part of the chosen. So they're not going to be excited about, for the past 40 years or so, people have gone to church since the days of Oral Roberts. People have gone to church or to religious meetings looking for something from Jesus, or mainly from his miracle pockets. Whatever the pockets of Jesus has and miracles and things that he could do since the days of Oral Roberts. Now, it wasn't like that before Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts brought a new kind of, if you will, and I'm not so much sure verifiable type of ministry. And then from there rose the faith churches, the miracle churches, the mega churches, And mainly it was all about what you could get from Jesus rather than what you could do for Jesus or for your neighbor. And that prevailed for 50 years or so. It has waned now. It is not as powerful or prevalent as it was. There's still a few people still jumping up and down, but mainly younger people don't go to church, and their children don't go to church, and so that idea of people can find their sense of excitement or miracles online with video games or with other kinds of activity. And online activities have pretty much taken over the lifespan. So the idea of church being a place where you can go and look for miracles is slowly waning. But even beyond that, I'm tasked with the responsibility of preaching about the tribulation. And every time I see the activities of Donald John Tribulation Trump on television, it just increases. The only explanation for what he does and how he does it and why he's able to do it is because of we're in the tribulation. And for those of you who know what the tribulation is or don't know what the tribulation is, it is the fact that Almighty God says, and I didn't understand this until the last couple of months, that let me back that up. Let me just scratch that for just a moment about understanding the last couple of months. What Jesus has said, not Peter, not Paul, not one of the apostles or the prophets, Moses or no one ever came near this statement about the destruction of planet Earth. Jesus took his disciples out on the Mount of Olives, it says, and he began to tell them that the temple will be torn down and not one stone will be left upon another. And that there would be earthquakes in diverse places, and there'd be wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, until all of creation that God created in Genesis chapter 1 would be destroyed. That's the tribulation. There'd be false prophets, obviously false churches, and I've also said there'd be false praise people that are assigned or that do praise of the Lord, but they're false. They've not been assigned of God. And that what the Bible further, and Jesus makes that plain in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, and that in the destruction process that only the elect would be saved. And that would be a very small group of people. I've gone ahead and said I'm a part of the elect. I've even gone as far as saying I'm a leader of the elect, and that Allah is the elect, and that Allah, the land where the people shall walk barefoot here in the community formerly known as Harlem, is the land of the elect where Jesus will return to. And I have several major battles that I've had to encounter. One is that the false prophecy that was taught in the Southern Baptist group about the rapture, had to encounter that, but whether I've been effective or not, we really don't know. But saying that God's going to destroy everything he created, and then he's going to create a new heaven and a new earth, and in the process there's going to be a 1,000-year interval, and then there's going to be a resurrection. And what I have been tasked with doing, and the thing that I did not understand until recently, is that creation is still in motion. Now listen to me very carefully as I speak, that creation is still in motion, that when God rested on the Sabbath day, it was the first rest, but creation remained in motion. Now think, if you could just a moment, you can't think like God, you're not him, but understand that when God created Adam, he understood that Adam was not perfect. And the only way Adam was going to avoid making a mistake is that he had to be perfect. And if God had made Adam perfect, then he would have been a God. The closest thing to perfection were angels, and they also were not perfect. As Jesus says in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 38, be ye perfect, even as I am perfect. That the only thing in creation that is perfect has not been created, and that is God himself. I'm willing to say now that the angels, though they are pre-creation of let there be light, let there be firmaments, let there be fruit-bearing trees, let there be fish, let there be fowl, let us make man in our image and our likeness. Even though angels predate that, I am of the mindset that there was a formation of angels, because I don't think they just came into existence, that only God himself. Now, for those of you who have had a little bit of dibbling and dabbling in astrophysics, and you've had some degree perhaps in school of the length and breadth of the universe itself, that it is endless, that it couldn't, the human mind of Einstein and Copernicus and others have been able to at least measure in the billions of miles. They've also been able to, physicists have been able to determine the speed of light, the distance that light travels, and been able to discover that light from distant stars have been traveling for several years before it reaches our eyes here on planet Earth, and then it zooms on by to wherever else it's going to travel to, which then says to every human mind that God himself is eternal and beyond understanding, or beyond explanation in terms of the way we understand it. I'm trying to get to the point of this, is that even the angels had to be formed, that they were not a part of the original formation of God himself. They are not gods, that the angels are not gods. So they may have been created and were created, or were formed, I should say. Let's use the word form so we can distinguish between creation and formation. That angels were formed, and they were formed before God said, let there be light. They were not created in as much as that they were a part of the creation process. They are above that. Man is a little lower in terms of creation. So here, let's not get too far afield on that. My whole premise here to say is what I've discovered over the last few weeks, is that the process of creation has not ended, that it is a journey, and that Jesus intervening in creation 2,000 years ago was a part of the journey. And in that journey, or in the creation journey, Jesus spoke, the most magnificent thing that happened within that journey. Jesus spoke and said that he's going to destroy all of creation because of man is not perfect. But I would look back, Elder Smith, and say, the fact that Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, was not just to those that brought him to the cross, those Roman soldiers who had no idea who Jesus was. But I would think, Elder Holnaker, I would think that when Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, was that it was much deeper a concern and prayer than just the crucifixion. In other words, that they didn't know that they were made imperfect, and neither did they know. Well, let me put it this way, Elder Holnaker, if Jesus had brought Judas, before Judas himself did cause himself to have suicide, if Jesus, listen to Elder Holnaker and Elder Smith, if Jesus had brought Judas to the cross and said to Judas at the cross, While he's standing there and he's dripping blood every which kind of way, Jesus said, Father, forgive Judas, for he know not what he did or know not what he do, whatever. That is to say, is that Judas was imperfect, Elder Oneka, and that therefore he really didn't know what he was doing. In fact, all the way back to Adam, who was imperfect, and Eve, who was imperfect. And then we had the serpent, the angel who had transformed himself into a serpent, Satan. Though he was not created, he was formated, and he too was not perfect. So Jesus would say to Judas, I really can't blame you. I really can't blame you because you're not the cause of your existence. Jesus would say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He said that of the ones at the cross. But I think that I think the statement goes far deeper if we just take the time to look at it. And if we look now at the refreshing, if you will, statement that Jesus intervened himself into creation, knowing when he created Adam and Eve, they knew he would have to come. That is to say that when God said, let there be, and he created Adam and Eve, he knew then that he would have to come some years later. He knew then the process. So, okay, well, now we know the process. He knew then, even when he spoke Adam into existence and cursed him with death, he knew then he would have to come to save Adam. He knew then the process that creation is still in motion, that creation has not ended. In fact, there is the great prophecy that there's going to be a new heaven and that there's going to be a new earth. The thing I want to try to explain here is that Jesus knew that Judas didn't know what he was doing, not in a real large sense. Now, he may have understood what 30 pieces of silver meant. That was probably a lot of money in those days. Silver has gone up in value over the last couple of weeks. But Judas didn't really know what he was. He didn't really know back to Adam what he was doing. So Father, forgive him. I suppose that Judas would have loved to have heard that because he was so distraught that he committed suicide. He was so distraught at what he did, he threw the silver down on the floor and he committed suicide. I suppose that Judas would have loved to hear Jesus say, Judas, you didn't know what you were doing. But in a broader context, none of us know what we're doing, except for what I've been revealing now, that Jesus intervened himself in creation that's in process or progress, that it is not a completed, that there's more to come. There's a new heaven and a new earth. And in the intervening time, Jesus himself, the only perfect person born of a woman, came, intervened himself, made it possible. But two things going on here. One is that Jesus also knew that there had to be the process of Noah. There had to be the process of Abram to Abraham to the 12 sons of Jacob, that the development of the Jews themselves, the development of the Jewish people, the birth of Jesus, that all of that was a part of the process. None of that was calculated or came up with as a plan after the fact. All of that was before God said, let there be fruit-bearing trees, let there be cattle and fowl, let there be fish. Before any of that was said, Jesus knew that there had to be the process. Jesus knew that there had to be a Virgin Mary. But the thing that we're trying to express here today is that the process continues, that Jesus knows that there's coming another and if you don't mind, and you may want to jump off the bandwagon here, and I would understand if you did, that the process includes atla. That the process includes atla. He knew that when he hung on the cross. He knew that to get to the new heaven and to new earth, he knew in order for him to return to planet Earth, he would have to return to a consecrated parcel of land with just a few group of people. And in that process of land, then everybody that had lived from the day God said, let there be, until he returned to Atla, would be resurrected. All persons, everybody, doesn't matter who you are. There'd be a first resurrection at the first, once he comes back, immediately the resurrection of those who've not taken the name of the beast, or the mark of the beast, I should say. They would be resurrected right away, and then they would spend 1,000 years on earth in Atla with Jesus, and then at the end of the 1,000 years, there would be the resurrection of everybody, and there would be a judgment of everybody. So if we look at this as a journey, and then we better understand it, that Almighty God, before he said, let there be, understood that there would be a Judas, that the whole process, because nothing takes God by surprise. So just suppose, for instance, that what I'm saying to you is true. The only thing that you would probably have an argument with is that Atla is the place that he's going to return to, and that I'm a member of the elect. You might want to argue with that, and I don't have a problem with you if you argue with that. That's your business. I'm saying that it is. But we do know the Bible says he's coming back. He's going to spend 1,000 years, and we do know that he's going to spend 1,000 years with a group called the elect, and they would be the only ones that will be saved, because he's going to kill everybody else through the various means of wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, etc. But the elect, so you don't have to believe I'm the elect, you don't have to believe Atla is the elect, but let's assume for just one moment it is. Let's assume for just one moment that Atla is the elect. Well, I mean, okay, now that you've assumed it, what else? Well, then this would be the place that Jesus would return to. Okay, what else? Well, the other thing that I would know personally is that Satan doesn't want Jesus to return. See, the other side of this story is this. If creation, if it's just left with what we have in Jesus on the cross, and Father forgive them, for they know not what they do. If we are left with just that, then right now Satan's in control. I mean, you can go everywhere you want to go, and people will tell you that the righteous suffer and the wicked prosper. They'll tell you that. But if Jesus is not coming back, Satan is a winner. And one of the things that would be advantageous to Jesus, advantageous rather to Satan, is that Jesus does not return. And in some way, can the return of the Lord Jesus Christ be stopped? You know, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Ephratah, I like to say that Herod sent out a notice to kill all baby boys 2 years young and under, thinking that, well, that way he'll kill Jesus. Satan would want to stop the return of the Lord. If Jesus is not going to come back, forget about the churches, forget about mega churches. I mean, okay, forget about, Oral Roberts and, Robert Schuller and all them other, forget about the Catholics and the popes over there in Rome. If Jesus is not coming back and things remain the status quo, Satan is winning. Because evil is everywhere. And moreover, the prophecy of Jesus himself is wars, rumors of wars, false prophets. Jesus prophesied false prophets are coming. Wars are coming. Earthquakes are coming. So if Jesus is not going to, if there's nothing between now and your death, Satan is winning. So one of the things that, and I personally, I guess you say, well, Pastor Man, you're just, making this personal. Well, maybe I don't want to get angry with you for that, but I feel like I'm fighting Satan all by myself. But the outlaw people are with me, praise God. The members of the outlaw church, they're loving, they're powerful, they're prayerful, they're kind, they're giving, they're righteous. But on the world stage, I feel, and I'm fighting for this parcel of land called outlaw. I'm fighting for it. But if Jesus is not coming back, Satan is winning. If the story ends with Jesus on the cross, that's what I'm trying to say, if you'll listen to me. Elder Butler, if the story ends with if that's the end of all things, and after that is just, we all go to heaven or we don't go to heaven or whatever, if the story ends with Jesus on the cross, then Satan wins. If you look at what's happening now. And not only that, but Jesus himself gave no prophecy. Moses said there's a land flowing with milk and honey and on and on and on. And that's all good. We know about that. And I'm saying there's a land where the people should walk barefoot because the land is holy. But Jesus gave no good day prophecy. Jesus gave no prophecy that peace is going to reign on earth. Jesus gave no prophecy that peace would reign on earth. He gave, in that regard, he gave no prophecy that men would love each other. He gave no prophecy that everybody would one day bow down to him. He gave no prophecy. He said that there are going to be false prophets. He said there are going to be wars. He said there are going to be rumors of wars. So then you might want to ask, if you question your astrophysicist, you might want to ask the question, well, then didn't he know this when he first created it? Yeah, but the process is not over with yet. The process is not over with yet. What the 1,000-year reign that is spoken of by John the Revelator in Revelation chapter 20 is the idealistic thought that men would have about earth, that is to say, what Revelation chapter 20 says, that Jesus is coming back after he kills everybody else through the process called the tribulation. He's coming back, and then they're going to spend 1,000 years on planet Earth at this one particular land with a small group of people, and with a group of people that have not taken the mark of the beast, or who have suffered, such as John the Baptizer and some of the other prophets, and Samuel and David and all that other crowd, for 1,000 years, and there'll be the 1,000-year reign of peace. That's important, because I think that if we preachers could preach, we would preach that there would be peace on earth since the crucifixion of Jesus, that there would have been peace on earth, that all nations, all kindreds, all tongues would be praising Jesus. That's what we preachers would preach, but it ain't happening, so we ain't preaching it. But Jesus, John the Revelator, said there'd be 1,000 years of it. And I'm saying that outlaw is a part of it. That 1,000 years, I'm saying I'm a part of the elect. I'm saying that I'm a part of it. And then Jesus said, even after that, it isn't over with. Then there comes a new heaven and a new earth. So were we to dissect this, we would have first the first creation of Adam and Eve. And even in that, God knew that Adam would fail. God knew that Adam was not perfect. He knew that he would. But that is not the point. The point is that 10,000 years later, humanity can reach a point, well, not so much where there is perfection, but where there is no need to sin, because Jesus also tells us, or John the Revelator tells us, that Satan and his angels will be thrown into the lake of fire. They'll be loosed after the first resurrection. They actually will. Satan will be loosed from the bottomless pit, and he will go and he'll cause a few more sins, but after that he's going to the lake of fire. So, I mean, we're out to do a flow chart, not a flow chart, but we're out to do a chart. First the creation, then Noah, then Adam, and then the land flowing with milk and honey, and the chosen Jews, and then the chosen Jews, the special birth of Jesus, then Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And by the way, if I could speak to Judas, Jesus would have said that to you. Father, forgive Judas, because he didn't know what he was doing. And then we have the tribulation, we have the wars, we have tribulation. Trump comes along, he creates wars, he threatens wars, he lies, he robs, he steals, and he's got a whole lot of disciples that, calling themselves Christians, who are supporting his robbing, lying, and stealing. I think it's in the annals of history, I suppose that there's a lot about history that I don't know, but I don't think there's, even in the days of Hitler, I don't think that, because Hitler didn't lie. He was just full of hate for Jews. Hitler didn't lie the way Trump does. When you look at the fact that the Southern Baptists and the so-called white Christian nationalists, well, I mean, you could look at Joseph Smith and the Mormons or Latter-day Saints. That was a bunch of lies as well. Or you could look at Farad Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad and Yaqub. That's a bunch of lies about, so that's all lies. So I suppose it's not unique that these white people in the Southern Baptists, calling themselves Christians and Puritans are Christians, know that Trump is a liar. They also know he raped little girls. They know that Trump, probably the biggest rapist that ever walked up right on planet Earth, is Donald John Trump. He and Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell raped 9-year-old girls, 10-year-old girls. Trump, everybody knows Trump raped them. He talking about I'm completely exonerated. No, you're completely guilty. Trump and these white Christians that go to church, these white nationalists that read from the Bible, talking about make America great again, they know that Trump is a rapist of children. They know it. They know that he lies. Hey, how could they not know? They'd have to be dumb and dumber than dumb if they know that. They know Trump lies about anything and everything. Just ask him a question, he'll just lie to you. They knows it. If there's ever been the personification of the devil, if there's anything perfectly the devil, it's Trump. He just lies. And these white Christians, which the world needs to take a close look at this, that these white Christians, the Southern Baptists, these Christian nationalists, they know that Trump raped children. They know that. They know that he lied. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, the world's greatest rapist, Ghislaine Maxwell, there's never been anybody on planet Earth that has raped as many children and now treat them like they're dogs. They know that. So how does the world respond to this, that these white Christians follow the greatest personification of Satan ever walk upright on planet Earth is Trump? The Bible says that Satan is the father of a lie. Trump is better than Satan as far as he just lies. He just lies. He steals, and he lies and steals more. And you've got literally millions of white people supporting this man who has raped children. I mean, and you ask them, ask the senators, you ask the congresspersons, you ask the farmers, you ask the people in the country stores in the South and Trump's and MAGA territory, and they'll say he's doing a great job. Not only he lies, but he kills, he robs, he steals, he kills people. He shoots people, shoots women. He's killing people. He's got a police force out there now that got all the money in the world. He's got some of the dumbest, most stupid, incompetent, repulsive people like Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth. These people are weirdos. And yet these white Christians, you would have to then look at that they're caught up in the prophecy of Jesus. You'd have to say, These white Christians, you'd have to say, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. I just, I find it even difficult with Jesus that they will support this pedophile. Trump has raped hundreds of young girls, children. He has raped children. Do you understand that? And everybody knows it. Les Wexner was interviewed by members of the Congress last week with his 88-year-old self. Said he had no idea that Epstein was raping children. He said, I didn't know anything about it. I gave him all my money. I told him he was in charge of all my money. He bought planes and islands and investments, but I didn't know he was raping children. I didn't know that. That's what that Les was. And he gets away with it. So you would have to say then that God has cursed these white people, that he has cursed them. I mean, there is no other way to explain why all these white people are talking about make America great again. And by the way, if people are talking about Trump is sinking in the polls, he's down to 34%. Trump don't care nothing about the polls, and neither do these white people who support Trump raping these children. They don't care about the polls. That don't mean nothing to them. They still got millions of people. They still have millions of people. They got the government. They run everything. They got to control the money. The Supreme Court said Trump couldn't propose tariffs. He said, tell the Supreme Court to go to hell. A bunch of fools and lapdogs. Call them a bunch of names. You would have to say then that God has cursed all these white people. Because there is no way that you could get fathers to tell their little girls that Trump's a great president when he has raped children. And that father knows that Trump has raped children. And don't be giving me this bit about you don't show me some proof and whatever. Listen, by the way, a large number, a major concern of mine is that, and we're going to get back to we're at the point now where we're at the tribulation, so Trump is the tribulation. But we're at the point now where there's been over 6 million pages of dossier or information or files of Jeffrey Epstein, right? And those 6 million pages, that the people that read those pages unredacted, many of them lawyers or working for the FBI are called in. They saw the pictures. They actually saw the wording. There's a thing called the FBI called a 302 report, where someone comes in and files a complaint and tells the officer, listen, this is what happened to me. I was raped, I was robbed, I was killed, I was stomped on. All those complaints they got, and not only that, but pictures. I think there was one congressperson that came out of who saw some unredacted pictures of men raping these children, and they turned their stomach. They just couldn't take it. There are literally thousands of Americans right now that have seen the unredacted one. Now they turned the redacted ones over to the public. Thousands and thousands of pages of nothing but black ink. But what about these people that have seen these men that have raped these children? Seen Ghislaine Maxwell that has raped these children. And the people like Whoopi Goldberg, I think her name shows up in the file. Did she have anything to do? Because she had a lot of lesbian women. You can't tell me that Ghislaine Maxwell, who the reports have been given that actually she was more involved in raping these children than Epstein himself, while he certainly did his part. At any rate, so we're at the tribulation, and Trump is the trigger of the tribulation. And this whole process of the tribulation, that all of these people, especially these white people, they're going to die, and many of them will die violently and 1,000 years from now, they'll be resurrected. And if I have anything to do with it, I don't know whether I will to that degree. I believe that everybody that was raped by these white people, these white men and white women, I believe, and black women as well, I believe that everybody that was raped by these young women who don't want their names, many of them have come forward. Others have, about 1,000, have not come forward because they just don't want to be publicly known. I think they'll be part of the first resurrection. I think they will be a part of the first resurrection. And they will reign and rule with us and Allah. I would certainly welcome them to Allah, but I think they'll be a part of the first resurrection. So Trump is now threatening war with Iran. I mean, he threatened war with Greenland. He threatened war with Venezuela. He threatened war with just anybody. Trump has sent the largest armada of ships and warships and implements of war and destruction over to the Middle East. In the Mediterranean Sea is the largest ship ever built. Is the Gerald F. Ford. It's an aircraft carrier. There's nothing on the planet as big as that. That thing is sitting out in the Mediterranean, ready to drop bombs on Tehran in a heartbeat. And then he's got them near the Strait of Hormuz. He's got them there in the Persian Gulf. He's got ships and warships and implements of destruction. And he's got bases all around. He's ready to drop a bomb on Iran. And they may just do it. Who knows? They could be dropping bombs right now. I mean, who knows what they're going to do? Tomorrow he'll change his mind. He's the trigger of the tribulation. I'll share this with you because I figure you and I, we can talk. You know, I've given a lot of prophecies, and a lot of people think, well, you know, I don't know if that prophecy came true or not. Some people did say to me, how did you know about Obama so early on? You know, but they said this years afterwards. But I can tell you one thing. The fact that Trump is the trigger of the tribulation, you ain't going to find no. Listen, Hitler, we'd have to wake up Hitler and give him some morphine or something to wake that boy up and say, Hitler, do you see what Trump is doing? He make you look like a Boy Scout compared to what Trump is doing. So one of the things, if I've never gotten anything else right as far as prophecies, because now I have, then nothing. I prophesied about Fred Price would be so small when he died, you could put him in a matchbox. You know, that man had that college coliseum he bought out there in Los Angeles. I don't know if 100 people came to his funeral after being the biggest thing on television, the biggest megachurch ever hit television. And when he died, less than 100 people showed up for his funeral. At any rate, but if I prophesied anything, the one thing I have prophesied is that Trump is the trigger of the tribulation. There ain't no doubt about that. God knows I nailed that one. I nailed that one. But I do want to say this, is that, okay, well, let's say Allah is the land where Jesus is coming back to. And it would be reasonable that Jesus would come back to the Hamite people because everybody else has had their line of blessing. Everybody else has had their land. Everybody else has had their uplift. The Hamite people are still waiting. They've been enslaved like the Jews. The Jews have had their time. They've had their promised land. It would seem to reason. I mean, I would think that if there was not a prophecy to black people that I'm giving as far as Hamites, that there'd be a need for Jesus maybe make some apologies. But listen to this as well. The other thing that it is troubling, and that is this, is that black people, in their desperation to claw their ways out of the conundrum that they're in, is that they've created their own religions. Now, Hamite is not a religion. It doesn't have its special, hat you need to wear, this or that, the other. In fact, the only thing we talk about here at Allah is Allah celebration in September. After that, we have no choir anniversary, pastor's anniversary. I don't even celebrate my birthday. But black people, the pain that's in black people, the next time you speak to someone who calls himself a black Israelite, by the way, we had a young woman join our church who was a member of the Hebrew Israelites. She joined about a month or so ago. I didn't see her in church this past Sabbath. Now, she may have been, because she generally sits way in the back. I don't know if she was here. But she used to be a member of the Hebrew, of the Israelites, that black group. Y'all know that. and she joined our church. She came and gave her hand to me and to Jesus. But black people have been in such pain. When you see black people saying we're black Jews, that means that they're in pain. They want to be somebody. They've been nobody for so long. Being a Jew is important. So they say we're Jews, but we're black Jews. That's because there's pain. Black people haven't built a seaworthy vessel. They've never built a house above 2 stories. And the ones they built have never been built of stone. They've never built any systems. The greatest period of black people, ever was the period between 1865 and 1920, which was called the Reconstruction period, when black people flourished coming out of slavery. With all that knowledge of former slaves, they built banks, insurance companies. They founded Howard University. They founded Tuskegee University, Spelman colleges. They actually had Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. They were powerful. And then here come W.E. Du Bois. Here come Dr. King and civil rights. Here come all that nonsense, and they go right back into the hole again. That's not where I want to go today. It's not where I want to end up. Let's put it this way. So, Pastor Manning, of all the prophecies you've ever given, I don't know if I believe any of them. But the fact that Trump is the trigger of the tribulation, there's just impossible to imagine anybody that could be worse than him. It's impossible. And one other thing you might want to do as a teaching method, as something you might want to, put in your pocket in terms of things taught, that Jesus could have called Judas to the cross, at the foot of the cross, as he hung there with the nails in his hand and the briar patch on his head as a crown and the sword piercing his side, that Jesus could have called Judas to the cross and said, Judas, Father, forgive you, because you really didn't know what you were doing. In fact, none of us know what we're doing. That's why prophecy is so important. And even prophecy is a small twinkling of a caption of eternity itself. Even the greatest prophecy of the land flowing with milk and honey was just a small prophecy. Because if you look at, Elder Butler, if you compare the prophecy of the new heaven and the new earth, the prophecy of Moses and Abraham and the land flowing with milk and honey was just a drop in the bucket. The prophecy of Atlah compared to there's going to be a new heaven. Forget about the small parcel of land called Atlah or small parcel of land called Israel. The prophecy of the new heaven and the new earth, the prophecy of Atlah, the prophecy of the promised land, is just a drop in the bucket. So we really don't know what we're doing. But what I've come to understand over the last few weeks, and that is creation is in progress. Jesus never meant for it to end when he rested on the Sabbath day. He rested after that process. There's going to come a new Sabbath, and then he's going to rest again. And Atlah is a part of the process of creation flowing forward. It's only 1,000 years that Atlah will be prominent, but it's just a part of that. And then there's going to be the new heaven and new earth. Let me say this. I guess you can say I'm a bit, I don't know, self-reliant. What's the word? I want to ask you to pray for me. I want to ask you to pray for me. And the reason why is because if it's true that Atlah is like the promised land that was promised to Moses or promised to Abram, then to Jacob and to the Virgin Mary and everybody, and that the new promised land and that the 1,000 years, we do know that there's going to be 1,000 years where Jesus is going to spend on earth with the elect. If Atlah is that land, then you would have to know that Satan wants to stop that from happening, and he would want to stop me. That I'm fighting a force that is not human. First of all, we will agree that Trump is a trigger of the tribulation. There's no doubt about that. He is. You can see it. Even Ray Charles could see Trump is the trigger of the tribulation. So that's one prophecy. If you never got any other prophecy right, this one you nailed it. You got this one right. Then if that's the case, then you might want to go a little bit further with me and believe that Allah is a prophecy as well, and that Satan, a formatted, pre-created entity, is attacking me. He's attacking the members of this church. He's attacking the members of Allah. And I would ask that you would pray for me, that I might remain strong, that I might have the strength to be able to fight against a formatted angel, a fallen angel, and all of his forces, that I would use the children of this church. Pray for me. And here's what I understand, Elder Nimrod, here's what I understand. Elder Ramos, by the way, Ramos, thank God for God brought you out of that. Elder Ramos, Elder Nimrod, here's what I understand. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The way to fight this formatted entity called fallen angel, Lucifer, the way to fight him is to feed the hungry. Please listen to me, Elder Ramos, Elder Nimrod, Elder Farr, Elder LaFleur. Please listen to me. Elder Honaker, the way to fight this fallen entity, once called Lucifer, is to feed the hungry, clothe the naked. That fights him. That is to house the homeless, to visit the sick. Sister Mingo was in church on Saturday in a wheelchair. And while I was preaching, I said, stand. Because I do that. Y'all stand, sit down, like you're Catholic or something. And then I pointed to her and I felt the power. I felt the power as I pointed my finger at her. I'm sure she felt the power too. Listen to me, people of God. Listen to me. The way to fight this fallen entity is not with knives and firecrackers or cherry bombs, but feed the hungry. Put together a breakfast program and feed children. That's how you fight the devil. Give a homeless person a place to lay their head that's safe and comfortable. That's how you fight the devil. Visit the sick. I went to see Rachel Felder the other day in the hospital for more than 2 years. Visit the prisons. House the homeless. Clothe the naked. That's how you want to fight the devil. You want to fight him? You want to fight Trump? Feed the hungry. You want to fight Trump? So those are things I'd like to say to you. It still needs to be clear that these white people and I say white, I could say Japheth, but I think it's more impactful. Sometimes if I say Japheth, it would tend to make white folk feel that I'm not talking about them. But these white people that are screaming and supporting the Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Sean Hannity's, the Laura Ingrams, the Fox News, what's that Waters guy, whatever that, on Fox News, and others. Listen, everybody. They know that Trump rapes children. They know that Trump has raped hundreds of children. They know it. Jesse Waters, he knows it. Sean Hannity knows that Trump has raped children. He knows. Laura Ingraham knows it. Janine Pirro knows it. Peter Hexek knows. They know it. Pam Bondi has seen the children's faces that Trump has raped. Pam Bondi has seen the photos, the videos that Epstein took when Trump was raping those young girls. They've seen it. But God has turned them over to a reprobate mind. We're in a dangerous place. Trump is the trigger of the tribulation. He's the trigger of the tribulation. So I thought it was important to share those things. I'm not through with you because if I get a chance to come back, and I pray that I will, I need to tell you, I need y'all to help me. I need financial support. I need prayerful support. I need y'all to help me. At any rate, I enjoyed every day I had out on the campaign trail. There was not one day, and I'll talk about this more, that I didn't love being out there. So, Mr. Engineer, will you take us to the top with love and righteousness? Don't worry about it. Peace out. But I will be back. I'm the only one that can cure the spiritual problems of New York City. I can bring healing and I can bring unity.
New York City, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. New York City, get ready for a man who will fight for you in all your needs. If you're tired of the lies that you've been told, here's a chance for you to vote for truth. He's a man with a plan that will get you through your struggles.
I can
Doesn't
do it.
matter at all
I
how
can
hard your
restore
life
joy.
has been.
Back to New York
It's
City.
the dawn of a new day your eyes have never seen. Get ready for change and be truly set free. Love and righteousness. We don't need no politician. Love and righteousness is all we need. Love and righteousness. New York City needs love and righteousness. That's all we need. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Love and righteousness. Yes, he can, yes, he can. We don't need no politician. Love and righteousness. Yes, he can, is all we need. Love and righteousness. Yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can. New York City needs love and righteousness. Yes, he can, that's all we need. Get ready for the next year of New York City. James Manning. Coming to you live from New York City, it's the Manning Report with your host, Dr. James David Manning. The truth behind the news and the news behind the headlines.
I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out, righteousness. All right, I'm just getting hooked up here, so you're watching me getting hooked up. Welcome everybody to the I take me, take me to a brief break for just a second so I can get my apparatus here put together so I can hear what's going on. Don't go anywhere, everybody. I'll be right back. There's a whole lot going on in London. Lord Manderson has been arrested. They're arresting all them pedophiles over there in England. Ooh, they might arrest the Queen. Anyway, don't go anywhere, everybody. I'll be right back. All right, so welcome to the Manning Report, and I'm Manning. As you can very well see, and I'm sure everybody heard it everywhere around the world, the blizzard that hit the Northeast on yesterday, and is still blizzarding, or as I speak, as you can see, the camera that's pointed on north on Lenox Avenue. As you can see, the snow is still falling. You can see that little, that's it, that's snow. This is a live shot. And as you can see, the sidewalks are filled with snow. We had 15 inches of the stuff fell here in the city, and that's a mild compared to what fell outside the city in parts of Long Island, where they got 2 feet of snow, parts of New Jersey as well. And the temperatures dropped below 30 degrees. I looked at it this morning at about 3 o'clock. It says that it feels like 18 degrees. The boiler kept kicking up heat. That they will praise Almighty God for that. And so it's been a winter blizzard. I was amazed. I was supposed to have a meeting with Elder Nimrod and Purple Grace this past Sunday. I was supposed to meet with them. And they were supposed to bring me a great big pineapple cake and some oxtails and some rice and peas and all that kind of good stuff, right? Yeah, and so I had my lips all ready for that. But then we heard that the blizzard was coming, so they canceled the oxtails, canceled the rice and peas, canceled the pineapple cake. I said, whoa. So I said, I guess it's the Lord's snow. I ain't gonna start getting in the Lord's business, but I did want the oxtails and the pineapple cake. But at any rate, so here. We got a lot to cover today. Breaking news, I don't have all the details, but the ex-ambassador to the U.S. named Lord Mendelsohn, I believe is his name, has been arrested over there in the U.K. along with that boy, Prince Andrew. He's no longer a prince. They're all of them connected to the Epstein files. And by the way, you need to listen to my last segment I just did on the Trust in the Lord Hour, regarding, the raping of these children by Trump and a bunch of other people. And they're trying to get away with it. They're trying their best to get away. Mike Johnson, the Republican, and a bunch of other people, supporting the idea that these old men that rape these children should get away with it. And they're lying through their teeth. You might want to check out my segment. I don't have time to deal with that again in this hour. Perhaps I should. If I have some moments left over the end of the hour, I'll try to delve into it again to give you some idea about what's happening. But yeah, they're arresting them people. Nobody's been arrested here in America. Imagine that. But people in the UK are being arrested for the Epstein files, but nobody in America. And I was teaching about Trump being the trigger of the tribulation. God, I'm going to report it today. Remind me to make sure that I have you listen to what Raphael Suleiman, because I didn't do it on this past Saturday. We had so many other things going on in the worship this past Saturday. But what Raphael Suleiman has said regarding where we are, I think he's a scholar and a very well learned person understand the sociology of the, if you will, genealogy of black people and their trek as well, and the others as well. But what I want to do today is, let me just say this. I'm going to bring up some information about Zoran, the moron Mondumi, and his renting of New York City. And I'm going to bring this up in just a second, but I want to preface this by saying this. You know, we spent a lot of money on the campaign. We did. But I have to tell you this. There was not one day of all the days of the year or so that we were out there on that campaign that I did not thoroughly enjoy myself. I mean, I thought every day I was out there on the campaign trail with Staten Island, Brooklyn, whether we were in Bronx or Manhattan, where we were down at the South Ferry, there's not one day that we were out on that campaign, and we were out there a large number of days for a large number of hours, as you very well know. And I as I stand before the Lord Jesus Christ, I have to tell you what a joy it was to meet people, have people pray with me. It was a really blessing. So if nothing else came out of that, it was a real blessing being out there and being out in the street and meeting with people and hearing people talk to me about what they know about me, etc. It was just a great time. At any rate, they say that Zoran, the moron, Mondumi, won the election on November the 4th. I don't believe that. But, and I haven't gotten into talking about the race or my position or where I'm at of late, because there's something far greater going on. The tribulation is happening, and Trump is at the center of it, and I have been focusing more on that, and I have been focusing on the fact that we're in a stage of the journey of the creation itself, that there's a new heaven and a new earth coming. So I've been in all of that. So Zoran, the moron, Mondumi has not been important. But I do want to say this. Fareed Zakaria, who I watch every Sunday, because and especially with the thing he does call this is my take. I enjoy all of what Fareed. He's very well studied. I enjoy the deep dive dynamics that he has with a lot of the guests that he has on. I think he has on. He doesn't have on a bunch of shallow people, and he doesn't have on a lot of black people either, because they're always getting into the mumble jumbo stuff. So he don't deal with them black people. Fareed Zakaria, I'm cool with that. But I enjoy watching him. But this past Sunday, he delved into the whole idea of the New York City budget and what Zoran, the moron, Mondumi is going to have to deal with, and perchance what we're going to face here in New York City. Now, there are a couple of things I want everybody to pay attention to. One is that the population of New York is shrinking and has been shrinking since the COVID-19, going back 6 years ago. People have been leaving New York and are continuing to leave New York. They're moving to Arizona. They used to go just to Florida, but they're moving anywhere in the Sun Belt. People are moving to. They're leaving New York. And the other thing is that you're going to hear him point out that it takes $35,000 per year to educate one child here in the New York City public school system. And that the public school system is also losing its enrollment. There are not as many children enrolled. People aren't having babies anymore. Homosexuals are not having children. The advent of that. So the New York City school system is shrinking, but the cost of education is going up. And then taxes on real estate, et cetera, is all going up. So Zoran, the moron, Mondumi, has got a major problem. And I don't see him solving it anytime soon. But anyway, Mr. Engineer, would you roll clip number 1, please? Don't go anywhere, everybody. I'll be right back.
Zoran Mondumi ran on a promise to make New York affordable.
A mandate for a city we can afford.
Last week, he unveiled a budget that is, in a word, unaffordable. New York has been fiscally profligate for so long that the headline number, $127 billion, produces little shock. But for perspective, these are similar to the annual expenditures of a mid-sized nation with all the expenses a country requires, like Greece or Thailand, devoted to governing one city. New York City's budget has ballooned in recent years. Michael Bloomberg's last budget, adopted for fiscal year 2014, totaled about $70 billion. So in little more than a decade, the budget has nearly doubled, growing faster than inflation and faster than the city's economic growth. And much of it has happened as the city has been losing the one thing that makes big government easier to finance: people. New York City's population fell sharply amid the pandemic, with a 5% decline from April 2020 to July 2022. More recent city reports show a rebound, but the city remained below its 2020 baseline as of 2024. The arithmetic is brutal. A larger bill is divided among fewer payers. Per person, the imbalance is stark. Using the Lincoln Institute's fiscally standardized numbers, New York's general spending in 2023 was more than 30% higher per capita than Los Angeles and more than double Houston. And what do New Yorkers get for this? Look at New York City schools, the largest school district in the country. The city's education budget has climbed while enrollment has shrunk. The DOE budget has risen from roughly $34 billion in 2019 to over $40 billion, while the DOE says per student spending is projected to reach nearly $35,000 in fiscal year 2026, among the highest in the nation. The outputs, graduation numbers, test scores, and reading levels, are at best middling, often comparable to places that spend a fraction of what New York does. Now come the taxes, because every political argument in New York eventually ends up at the same curbside: who will pay? New York already sits at the extreme end of the American tax spectrum. For high earners, the combined state plus city income tax reaches 14.776%. Add federal taxes and the combined marginal rate can exceed 50%, reaching roughly 55% on certain investment income. New Yorkers pay tax rates comparable to European countries that provide in return universal health care, free college education, and amazing infrastructure. New Yorkers get some 300 miles of sidewalk sheds. On business taxation, the city is also off the charts. The Citizens Budget Commission reports that New York City business activity faces the country's highest combined corporate tax rate, 17.44%, once state, city, and regional layers are stacked. Mamdani wants to hike income and corporate rates even further, or else he says he will raise property taxes by almost 10%. Property taxes already made up more than 27% of the cost of home ownership in the city as of 2022, above the national average. New York is really a prime example of a problem Democrats seem unwilling to confront. Blue cities are out of control, promising more, spending more, delivering less, and pushing off the fiscal problems to some future day. Take Los Angeles, another one-party metropolis wrestling with affordability and disorder. The city's homelessness budget for fiscal year 2025-26 totals about $950 million. The LA Homelessness Services Authority reported that in 2023, homelessness was up 9% countywide and 10% in the city. And a 2024 AP account noted that homelessness has surged 70% countywide since 2015 and 80% in the city. All this amid public frustration despite billions spent. An audit reviewed $2.4 billion in city homelessness funding and found that officials could not reliably track where it went or what it achieved. Or take Chicago, with a mayor whose approval rating is deep underwater, where the pension promises are so large that they will surely bankrupt the city at some point. What is the theory of good government here? If the answer is keep adding programs, the city will keep producing unaffordability, because unaffordability is what happens when government becomes a machine that grows faster than the society it governs. Zohran Mamdani's basic instinct is correct. Focus on affordability, especially housing. but not by providing government subsidies. These only seem to have driven up the cost of rent, as subsidies naturally do. The city's rental assistance spending rose from $263 million in fiscal year 2020 to $1.34 billion in the most recently reported fiscal year. That is a 5 times increase in a handful of years, and housing costs only got worse. Matt Iglesias persuasively argues that the city should make it easy and routine to just build abundant market-rate housing. That will bring in more people, expand the tax base, fill the schools, and increase local GDP. And that will make the budget affordable. For Democrats in city halls, there is a choice. Stop governing as if the goal is to announce new entitlements, and instead make government work. Safer streets, functioning schools, predictable sanitation, and above all, enough housing that the middle class can find places to live. New York City does not need more soaring rhetoric. It needs more homes.
I greatly appreciate Fareed Zakaria's always his lectures on the present state of it being. However, and his analysis were spot on. I tend to agree with the last things he said with respect to how to govern New York by safer streets, functioning schools, and build more houses. That is not the answer to New York's problems. The streets in New York are relatively safe. And well, here, if you're not a New Yorker, if you don't live in New York, then this would probably be foreign to your understanding. But if you live near a ghetto city, because he called them blue cities, they're really ghetto. Anywhere black people have a majority or at least a large segment of the population, they're going to be Democrat and they're going to be blue, or they're going to be ghettos. So that's the first problem. That's the first. We need to tackle the fact that black people are a great expense, and they are a growing expense to every city, because as you just saw, the rental assistance back in 2020 was $263 million a year, has now grown to over $1 billion of what the city has to do to subsidize black people's rent to pay for their housing. But here, and he says build more housing. That's not the answer either. Build more affordable housing. That's not the answer. And Zoran the moron Mondami ran on that premise as well. If you don't live in New York, but if you do, you will notice that New York City has more skyscraper luxury apartment buildings that have been built over the last 20 years than you can shake a stick at. The whole skyline of New York City from 59th Street down to Battery Park has been markedly changed because of the new luxury apartment buildings that have gone up, along with the luxury, if you will, office buildings. Now, there are a lot of office buildings, especially in the area from Chambers Street down to Battery Park, in the area where the World Trade Center, initially Twin Towers, were. There are a lot of those buildings down there are vacant. They are office buildings that were owned by these real estate moguls. And because of computer and because of work at home, many of these buildings are now vacant. And we're talking hundreds of buildings where absolutely nobody's living in. Can you repurpose those buildings to have people live in those buildings in what is known as a business district? Because that is a heavily business district from Chambers down to, you got all the courts down there, you got federal buildings down there, you got a lot of other buildings. Can you have, I think so. I think they can be repurposed, but they can only be repurposed with a certain statute or people, I think, who will be ready to live in a business district. I mean, you can't put, Baby and her children down there, because she could be out there in the street naked, showing her butt. Her children going to be out there cussing. She can be out there in the middle of the night while people are trying to do business, on the other side of the street. You can't put Baby and her children out there. You got to find, so where are you going to find the right clientele to go there? But the other thing is right here, you go to this 123rd Street, you go to 145th Street on this very avenue that you see the camera pointed out, they're building a 40-story luxury apartment building that actually they were going to name the Al Sharpton building because he's got a little chicken shack meeting house over there on 145th Street. To get it built, they used Al Sharpton and his Negro influence to get the developers pulled him into it, as they pulled him into the, if you will, the gentrification of this community. And they were going to name it, part of it would be there, 40 stories high, a luxury apartment building. You look across the river, you look across the East River, over in the Bronx, they have got luxury apartment buildings scraping the sky, and all over. So housing, if you got money, there are plenty of houses. There's plenty of housing in New York. You don't need to build more low-income housing. We need to build more high-income people. Now, that's what I would have said, and that's where I would finally sit people down and say, listen, you niggas, well, that's okay, all right, so you don't like the word nigga. Anyway, we got to stop building low-income housing because it continues to build low-income people. That's the problem. The budget went from $263 million to $1.6 billion in rental assistance because you keep building low-income people. We got to stop that. We got to look at, hey, something's wrong with your idea, the way you think. You have got to, something. You got to get rid of all these. Get rid of Al Sharpton. Make Al Sharpton a spectacle. We don't want to hear his voice, see his voice. Get rid of all the other Negroes that are leaders and are politicians. Get rid of all the city council. Put all white people. Put all white people and put all Jews in the city council. Get rid of all the Negroes because all they do is advocate for building more low-income people. You build low-income people, they're going to need low-income housing. But if you build high-income people, you can put them in some of these projects. Some of these high-rise buildings. New York, skyline has changed. I mean, you've got luxury apartments. There's one building down the street down there that goes 100 stories high. It's up in the clouds. And people are living in those buildings and all over on the east side, west side. There's plenty of property. There's plenty of, it's just that this low-income mentality. And Democrats are about that. Black people about that. And then they rail at me, well, you can't, you got affordability. No, that ain't the case at all. Now Mondami's going to have to raise taxes as much as 10% on the real estate that is remaining. He wants to grab another 3% from all the wealthy people that live in the city. They're going to leave. They're going to just move their headquarters someplace else. They don't have to live in New York City. And they're not going to pay. So the city's going to go bankrupt. Until we look at the fact, you got to stop building low-end. You got to stop festering low-income people. You got to tell mama, you have a baby, daddy ain't gonna take care of it. Well, we ain't, don't come to be knocking on the door of the welfare office. We ain't putting no diapers on that baby, and we ain't giving you no money for milk, and we're not buying no food for you and your nigga. You just gotta say it. And they say, well, people are already dying. People are gonna suffer. People are already suffering. We got to stop building, listen, here's the other thing. You say, Pastor Man, I don't agree with you. Well, I'll tell you this. You go into any city that is not a low-income people where they have low-income ideas about everything, all this business about pitying black people and subsidies for black people and hell, you go to these cities around America, and the budget is usually, and the people are living okay, but they're white, and they're Republican. And I'm not Republican or white. I guess I'm not white. I guess you see that. But it's sick. And until we start training ourselves to stop thinking low income. Low-income people. You got to be righteous. You got to be respect. And by the way, there are plenty of jobs. I was talking with John Galt the other day, and I tell you what. Listen, let me put this in your pipe and smoke. Hey Trump, you want to get rid of all the Mexicans? You want to get rid of all the Latinos that are coming across the border? Want to get rid of them? Put black people to work. Tell black people to get off their ass and go to work because they're doing jobs. These Mexicans, Latinos are doing jobs that black people won't do. Hell, they ain't gonna work. They ain't gonna do these jobs. But a Latino be glad to get him. Hell, they pay him $15 an hour. He don't care. He'll be hanging out at the Home Depot, Walmart, waiting for somebody to come and give him a job. He'll make himself $75 to $100, $125, $150 a day, go home, and he in Chiquita, they'll have some whatever, and they go back out next day, make another $150 while that black man is sitting at home watching television. He won't get up. He ain't going no damn where. If you're going anywhere, he's going to jail. He won't work. And somebody done told him that the white man's against it. Somebody done told him that the white man's making a slave out of him. Somebody done told that Negro that the black white man's against it. He ain't going to work. But that Latino, I tell you what, you want to stop migrating. You want to stop the problem. All these people come, let these black people take up all the jobs that should be taken up, go to work. Then you tell these black people stop paying taxes. They can pay their own damn rent, buy their own food. Don't need no free bus ride. Don't need no free groceries. What the hell is wrong with y'all? You can put that black man out to work. Put him out to work. And he done go home and got a computer now, and he know how to play, know how to game the system. So they voted for Ndami instead of me. Is that right? No, I got the answer. No. You solve this problem right now by listen, when I was in North Carolina, I said, well, there they go again, talking that North Carolina talk. We're tired of that old Jim Crow hillbilly stuff. He talking all that, talking about when everybody went to work in the cotton fields, everybody, even little babies went out to work. Yeah, we did. Hell, it need to be that way now. You wouldn't have all these, if you get, listen, all that budget that you see the increase is that they got more black people who ain't working no more. So anyway, well, I don't think that's the message that people want to hear. Why? They want to hear a free bus ride. Okay, you want to ride on the train, want to get on the train, don't want to pay nothing. Then you got a bunch of people sitting on the train, sitting at home watching television. They get on the bus and ride around town all day. Nuisance to everybody. Won't get off the bus either because you can't make them get off the bus. So I agree with Fareed. I like Fareed. I do. I think that the other thing I think is important is that you need to be aware of the fact that the black people are having fewer babies. That's true. Latinos are having plenty of babies, quite frankly. And so the population of the schools is shrinking. This city is also losing some of its residents, people. But if you come up here to Harlem and you go to Bed-Stuy, Fort Greene. I tell you, down in Brooklyn on Fulton, the Flatbush Extension and Livingston, all those streets around there where the Barclays Center is, where they built all that, it is at the skyline. Mama Neil would know what to do because we should be down there. That's where we used to live, in that general area. So housing is not a problem. It keep going to build more affordable housing. Everywhere you look, they're building luxury building. They just ain't building for black people. They just ain't building for poor people with your stupid self. And the likes of our shop. The other thing is that why you can't talk to these Negroes. I swear before God, I'll tell you the truth. I believe Jesus. I believe the Lord has sent me. But I don't think Jesus can talk to black people. They're so racist. You can't talk to black. Anytime, let me say, if you a black man and you can't see through Al Sharpton, you can't see he's just a hustler, a liar, a skinflint, and Obama too, by the way. By the way, Mr. Engineer, I put out a tweet the other day about those two black people are at the bottom of the world's social register. There's nobody on planet Earth that is low as black people. And at some point, somebody's going to turn around. I don't know, this will happen. This probably will not happen. Somebody's going to turn around and say, wait a minute, hold the phone. Let the Latinos, let the Mexicans, let the Nicaraguan, Guatemala, El Salvador, let them all come in. Let them come, and let's just get rid of the black people. We'll have a straight work. The Latinos, the El Salvador, Guatemala, they're a great workforce. Hell, they'll work. Go back to Che Guevara. The farmers out there in California, y'all know about Che. Yeah, what we need to do is don't get rid of the Latinos. That's the wrong. Hey, Trump. Trump, what the hell? Trump, listen, send ICE to get rid of send black people back to Africa, and America will be okay because the Latinos will pay their own. They'll pay their own way. The Latinos will work. They'll pay their taxes. Their children won't end up going, they'll speak 2 or 3 different languages. And their father go stay at home with his children. The Latino, you're going in the wrong direction, Trump. Stop trying to get rid of the Latino. Get rid of all them black people. Especially Al Sharpton, send him first. And Obama, he ain't black, but send him in there because he said he's black. He's half white. But send Obama, send him to Nigeria, send him somewhere. Get rid of him. Get rid of them. You get rid of all these black people, you lower the taxes. You talking about lower crime, you doggone right. There'll be housing for everybody. There'll be jobs for everybody. And the work will get done. These Latinos, they will work. Black man, this I'm telling you, since the 1960s, and that march on Montgomery bus boycott, that march on Washington, and what didn't that march on Washington, the Million Man March, doggone it, I tell you that do. You're going, hey, Trump! You're going in the wrong direction. Don't get rid of the Latino. Get rid of all these black people. Doggone it. Anyway, let me send you, I sent out a tweet the other day. Here. Can I read it? Because I figure you could read it, but I'll read it as well. It said, black Americans, we're Hamites, are doing worse now than ever in American history. And I'm old enough to know that too, by the way. I've seen both sides of the clouds. Black people own nothing. They don't. They own no property. They own no cycles. They own no systems. They own no equity. They have no equity in nothing. Banks, housing, boats, factories, buildings. Black people don't have no equity in nothing. They're the largest group of broken families, low college education if they go, fewer marriages, and lonely black women. Let me tell you something about these lonely black women. Y'all got to do something about these women who ain't got no husband. Now, somebody needs to say something, and somebody needs to say it now. All these black men done turned sissified and let these other white, these white, because you get these white homosexuals. They something to do. These men that are homosexual, they white, they something to do. They tougher than an alligator. You ain't dealt with nobody who's tough till you dealt with a white homo. Man, you talking about, woo! You talking about somebody tough. Now he'll talk sweet and everything, act like a woman, put on lipstick and high heel shoes, but don't you get on the wrong side of that homo. Don't you get on the wrong side of that white homo. You talking about trouble. Don't you get on the wrong side of him. But he done turned the black man into homos. Anyway, got all these lonely black women. The reason for this unprecedented worst conditions is because of the worst black leaders in the history of the world. You talk this Negro say, I shop not later. I shop not netware. I shop I shop. Something happened. Jesse Jackson, somebody black died. Somebody get shot. Call Al Sharpton. Put Al Sharpton on television with his process here. Call Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton spokesperson for black people. I do declare before God. And I made this man the spokesperson for black people. Al Sharpton. He can't read. He been on television. Now, by the way, I got him fired. He had a job. He was on MSNBC Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock. I got him fired from that job several years ago. I did. They gave him the weekend now when nobody was watching. He got 5 o'clock on Thursdays and on Fridays, rather, Saturdays and Sundays. Anyway, anybody who looks, you figure this. You should talk to a black man, right? You talk to a black woman, a black child. If they are stupid enough to think that Al Sharpton is the spokesperson for black people, then you know there ain't no hope for black people. If he's our spokesperson, we ain't no hope for us. There ain't no hope for us. Both Obama and Sharpton are the reasons black people are at the bottom of the world's social register. Black people are dumber than dumb, and they're dumb enough to worship these gay charlatans. At any rate, everybody, I'm going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with Raphael Suleiman. I'll be right back. Having a big church is not the answer. If having a big church, then Fred Price would have solved the problem. If having a big church and a big ministry, Fred Price was all over television on Sunday morning. I mean, you couldn't get CBS. You couldn't get Barbara Walters or Walter Cronkite. Nobody. Fred Price. Fred Price, what's the ministry he called? We walk by faith and not by sight. And he's gone. And he can't hide in the hair. So listen to me, Pastor Man, if you don't say, Pastor Man, you know, having a big church and a national television ministry was not the answer. If that was the answer, Crenshaw Boulevard, if that was the answer, then the riots in Los Angeles would have never happened. If having a big church and Trump, I mean, Fred Price was right there on Crenshaw Boulevard, right there in the heart of the ghetto. But that didn't solve Los Angeles poverty problems. And they only got worse. It's worse now than it was when he was there. So if you're looking, you're saying, well, get another pastor with a real big church like Fred Price, or if you're talking Hamites, or T.D. Jakes. Jakes had a big church, big ministry. They were inviting him to the White House to give speeches at the White House. That didn't solve the problem. And Jakes is gone. That didn't solve the problem. Or for that matter, Robert Schuller out there in Orange County at the Crystal Cathedral out there, that church made out of glass. That didn't solve the problem of the oncoming of Trump and MAGA. So, I mean, if you look and say, well, Pastor Manning, you know, you're not like any of those. No, I'm not. That don't mean that I'm the answer. I didn't say that. Did I say that? I didn't say that. Don't mean, but I'm certainly not in because why should I be? Because they have been proven to be not the answer. I was talking to my dentist the other day, and he said, well, too bad I can't call you Mayor Manning. I said, it's all right. I said, I did it because I thought I could help. I've been helping people for 40-some years. I thought I would broaden my spectrum of, and it ain't over with yet, too, by the way. You never know. It ain't over with yet. But none of those things, Dr. King, we don't need another Dr. King. We don't need another mountain. We got flowers and mountains to what the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing that there's just too little of. We don't need another king or Dr. Martin King. We don't need another dreamer who says, I have a dream. What the world needs now is love and righteousness. Sabbath Rachel LaFleur. What the world needs now is not another Fred Price. What the world needs now is a sacrifice of love and righteousness. What the world needs now is not another Jakes. What the world really needs is what it really takes for the world to be free from the sin that it do. What the world needs is somebody, Pastor Manning, like you. What the world needs now is love and righteousness. We don't need another Dr. King or a Malcolm X. What the world needs now is love and righteousness. And that, my friend, don't you ever, ever, ever forget. Hallelujah and amen. All right, so there you have it. I mean, it was just nearly 2 o'clock now here in the Northeast. I see there are a few people out there that actually walking on that 15 inches of snow, and maybe it's not that many inches out there on that sidewalk, but that's what accumulated in Central Park in New York City, so that's the barometer of how they discover. And the snow is still falling, and it's still cold in New York, and that blizzard, I'll be glad it's over with. So that we can get back to normal. I can't wait for the summer to get here. Raphael Suleiman, scholar Suleiman, I should call him, wrote a piece the other day. It was my intent to read this, have this read on Saturday at the worship, but there was so many things going on at the worship, and I want to get to Elder Ramos and Elder Farr as I spoke to them. But, Mr. Engineer, could you bring up that piece where Deborah Love Carter Smith reads the writing of scholar Suleiman.
This Saturday will be Savior's Day for the Nation of Islam. The NOI tried to build a religion to save the Negro slum dwellers from themselves over 60 years ago, and Black people have not mentally evolved since then. Who was Fard Muhammad? He was definitely not a savior. Some say he was an Arab, a Spanish man, a Jew, and even possibly a South Asian Muslim or even a Syrian. He was proven to be a con man who, along with the son of a Baptist minister in Georgia, Elijah Poole, developed a religion which was a cult-type offshoot from traditional Islam. Back in 95, the leader of this cult developed the most significant civil rights activist march in the late 20th century, the Million Man March. With its many iterations and subsequent marches in the years that followed the initial march. This leader's name is Louis Farrakhan. He is a much older man now. Now, a lion of civil rights has died, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Maybe Minister Farrakhan may succumb soon too. Who knows? Will the NOI survive when he passes away, and will it remain a relevant force in Black America? Black America is about to feel the true brunt of the MAGA movement very soon as the mark of the beast system forms. Blacks will soon become the new scapegoats of society, as the Jews became during the reign of the Third Reich in Nazi Germany, World War II era. The Epstein files will reveal eventually that the elites are really Luciferian Freemasons, who have been a secret aristocracy which has been masking this republic as a democracy from its very inception. The founding fathers of America were deeply intertwined with the British aristocracy when they took power. They always knew that America had a secret aristocracy which really controlled the nation, the deep state. Now it is being revealed through the Epstein files. We need a true leader now for Black America. We need Prophet Manning, a man who will tell all races of people in America the truth about what this nation is and how God will judge this world and this nation in its 250th year. Peace.
All right, so I didn't do that. Actually, this past Saturday was chronologically Savior's Day for the Black Muslims. There are a couple of phenomena that speak loudly about the conundrum, about the area of failure of Black people is that they've tried to create their own religion. Black Muslims, as you just heard, Fard Muhammad and Elijah Poole, and this whole idea of Black Muslims. Then a generation later came this whole idea that the Blacks are not Muslims, they're Jews. So now they're Black Jews. It's simply, these people are crying out, please recognize us. We don't have anything. We don't own anything. We ain't nobody. All this has happened rather since post-Reconstruction period. When you hear Black Muslim or Black Farrakhan or even Malcolm X, who finally denounced this nonsense, Malcolm denounced Black Muslims as a farce, as a lie. But when you see somebody who says that they're a Black Jew or Black Muslim, you hear somebody who's crying out, I ain't nobody, so I'm going to take the religion and the identity of another person and say, I'm the real one and they're the fake one. It is madness. But that's the level where Black people have sank over the last 60 years, 70 years. With Islam and with Judaism, with being Black Jews and Black. At any rate, it was Savior's Day, so I didn't read it on Saturday. I do want to say that there was some discussion about whether or not Jesse Jackson, who also passed last week, whether or not his body should lie in state at the state capitol, the Rotunda in Washington, D.C. And I'm ambivalent about that. I'd say I have two opinions, and they both have the same weight. About one says yes, the other says no. Let me give you my no first. That Jesse Jackson was a civil rights person. He was a spawner and a part of this whole identity of developing the black man that won't work no more. Anna had a baby, she won't work no more. Jesse Jackson was a part of the development of the black man declaring that the white man owed him a living and he wasn't going to work anymore. And so he stopped working. He stopped being industrious. He stopped being, if you will, part of the larger group. He stopped paying attention to his family. Jesse was a part of that process. This is far-fetched, and I realize it, but I'll say it anyway. Jesse was on the balcony that night when Dr. King's my no of why he should not lie in state. He was on the balcony the night the day that Dr. King was shot. I don't know whether not Jesse had anything to do with it. I don't know. He was young at the time. He was very young. He was probably crazy. He was crazy. And I just don't know, whether James Earl Ray or whoever it was that allegedly did the shooting didn't have an accomplice. And I don't know that Jesse was. So I had my suspicions about him. I know that Dr. Ralph Abernathy, who was supposed to be Dr. King's lieutenant, Ralph Abernathy, you remember him, who spilled the tea about all the women that Dr. King slept with while he was doing his civil rights march over the years. So I don't know if either one of them betrayed him. That was my reason for no. My reason why I'm ambivalent and I would say yes, he should lie in state is because perhaps he should have been the first black president. I mean, if you think about it for just a second, and I'm not for this, I'm now doing a duality of things. I'm expressing why I think he should lie in state, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily expressing, I'm just giving some, listen, Jesse Jackson perhaps was the only man that is a black man that ran for president of the United States and had a possibility of becoming the first president. Shirley Chisholm, a black woman, congressman from Brooklyn, from my district, in Brooklyn, from Mama Nils district in Brooklyn, ran too, but she got kicked to the curb. And the reason why Shirley got kicked to the curb is because Shirley told the Democrats, you ain't gonna tell me what to do. I'm unbought and I'm unbossed. And she wouldn't, she just wouldn't play cards. She wouldn't, Shirley was her own woman. The Democrats tried to say, well, say a little about this, a little about that, and be a little for the homos, this. And Shirley said, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing it. So they kicked her. They had a convention in Los Angeles. They kicked Shirley Chisholm so far, they kicked out the Omni Hotel. I think she fell 40 stories before she landed on Sunset Boulevard. They got rid of Shirley Chisholm, Congressman Shirley Chisholm, because she just wasn't, she was just, you couldn't tell her what to do. She says, I know what needs to be done. I'm going to say what needs to be done. I'm not saying what y'all want this year just to get elected. But at any rate, going back to Jesse. Jesse ran twice. He ran in 1984 and he ran in 1988. Both times he came in a narrow loss. But Obama was not the first black president, everybody. So I think posthumously, that's a fancy word. Have you used that word before? Posthumously. That's a fancy word. I don't even know what it means. Anyway, I think posthumously, I think they ought to put Jesse in. And I'm going to send a note to Mike Johnson and also to Trump. Let Jesse lie in state because really he's the first true black president. Obama's a fake. And by the way, I don't know, do we have that video where Jesse said he's going to cut off Obama's junk? Oh, Jesse tried to tell y'all that Obama was a fake. He tried to tell y'all. And so I think that America should rise up and say, Pastor Manning, you're right. We ought to honor the first man that came close because Obama ain't nobody's first black president. But these Negroes, they are so sick. These Negroes, I'll tell you the truth. But Jesse, I think that, Jesse was showing us stomped down. He was a black man, Jesse was a black man, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Anyway, you know, Jesse said about Obama, he's a fake, and I should cut off his junk. Roll that clip, Miss Cindy.
Talking down the black people on this faith base. Talking down the black people. Talking down the black people on this faith base. Talking down the black people.
Now here, this is what Jesse thought about Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama. They're going to cut off his junk. Y'all if you don't know what junk is, then go to school and come back again. I ain't got time to tell you that they've been saying, they've been talking about my cussing. I don't cuss. They say I cuss, but I don't cuss. Anyway, Jesse said he wanted to cut off Obama's junk. Now, that ain't half of, I call him the long-legged Mac Daddy. Obama put black women that way, but Obama the long-legged Mac Daddy. But, so on that, my ambivalence is that I think they should put Jesse in the state rotunda as the first black president. You can start a movement posthumously. I like that word, posthumously. Where'd you get that from? I don't know. Heard somebody say it. Posthumously. Yeah, I'm saying it too. Yeah, posthumously, I think we should make Jesse Jackson the first black president. What do you think? Amen. And by the way, you know, when Obama, the long-legged Mac Daddy, did become president, he didn't give Jesse a call. Could he call and say, Jesse, come be Secretary of State? Or, you know, I don't know, Secretary of Housing, you know. Like they had that freak doctor who was the Secretary of Housing with Trump, who was a medical doctor who didn't want to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services, like that Kennedy boy. He said, I'll be the, what was that black man's name? They made him the Secretary of Housing. He didn't know a doggone thing about housing. Probably didn't know anything about health either. But he was Trump's Secretary of Housing, which says a mouthful within itself. But no, I think that, you know, Obama didn't call Jesse, didn't call Harry Belafonte, didn't call Cornel West, didn't call Michael Eric Dyson, didn't call Tavis Smiley, didn't call none of them black boys, He called Al Sharpton. Doggone. Because he knew Al Sharpton was a phony like him. And Al Sharpton became his ace boon coon. At any rate, everybody, Saturday, Elder Ramos, on Friday, Elder Ramos had the police tried to arrest him for animal cruelty. You know, he's got Noah's Ark, and he was out there, 59th Street, I think, someplace in the city, on Friday with his animal, with Babe. Y'all know Babe, the dog, the black dog, Babe. He was out there with Babe and the cat and some others. And somebody accused him of animal cruelty, went and got the police and had him arrested. And they actually put Elder Ramos in handcuffs Friday. They did. They put him in handcuffs. And I think they threw him in the back of a squad car. Better glad it wasn't ICE. Anyway, so I guess I have to talk to Elder Ramos to get more of the details of what actually took place. But somehow or another, I had preached a sermon on Thursday about being justified. I think it was Thursday. I preached a sermon about being justified. God has justified all of us. And so Elder Ramos remembered that sermon, and for whatever reason, they took the handcuffs off and gave him back his pets and let him go home. And he came to church on Saturday. So happy to see him. Elder Ramos has been in church now for 30 years. I don't know if he's ever been arrested. I don't think they've had handcuffs on him. But that, you know, that's what they did to our elder. Anyway, God let him go. God got him out of that. I'm going to have him tell the story about that. And then I was also talking to Elder Farr about how he, a couple of weeks ago, had to sit by the bedside of his wife, Rainbow Farr, for 24 hours. He's done that on a couple of occasions. I don't know if I was able to do that. I'd have to go home, do something. But he sat by his wife's bedside down at the that center down there, I forget the name, Langone Center, while they were, you know, trying to get his wife because she was very sick at the time. And but But at any rate, I congratulate him, and I think we can learn something from Elder Farr, about patience. I don't know about you, but, I don't do nothing in my house. I don't do nothing. Elizabeth does everything. I don't do nothing. I don't even turn on the television. That's how I do. I don't do no cooking. I don't wash nobody's dishes. I definitely don't do that. You forget that. I don't wash no clothes. I don't sweep no floor. I don't do nothing. I don't do nothing. Woo! But, when you got a sick wife, you have to do all that stuff. Farr has to do all that. Cook, he's got a couple of sons he has to feed as well. So, thank God Elizabeth ain't sick. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble. I probably couldn't do the broadcast. I probably wouldn't have time to do it. At any rate, everybody, we've been, here, got this big snowstorm. It's still snowing. Look out there. It's not falling as much as it was. No, I think it's finally stopping. There. I see some more drops there, so we'll see. I'm snowed in. I ain't going nowhere. I'm snowed in. And I don't know where Elder LaFleur, he usually goes out. He comes out no matter what. I think this snow's going to keep him in, too. I don't think he's going anywhere. Anyway, thank God our engineer came in today. That way I'm able to do a live broadcast. All right, I'm going to go. I'll check y'all out next time we get together. All right, keep hanging in there and praying for Pastor Manning. Peace out. I'm the only one that can cure the spiritual problems of New York City. I can bring healing and I can bring unity.
New York City, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. New York City, get ready for a man who will fight for you in all your needs. If you're tired of the lies that you've been told, here's a chance for you to vote for truth. He's a man with a plan that will get you through your struggles. Doesn't matter at all
I can
how
restore
hard your
joy.
life has been.
Back to New York
It's
City.
the dawn of a new day your eyes have never seen. Get ready for change and be truly set free. Love and righteousness. We don't need no politician. Love and righteousness is all we need. Love and righteousness. New York City needs love and righteousness. That's all we need. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Yes, he can, yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can, and he will, cause he's the man. Love and righteousness. Yes, he can, yes, he can. We don't need no politician. Love and righteousness. Yes, he can, it's all we need. Love and righteousness. Yes, he can, yes, he can, and he can. New York City needs love and righteousness. Yes, he can, that's all